Hello everyone, my name is Ákos Deliága and I will speak about a very special topic today, which is the dark side of all what we have heard about today. You just saw some slides about recommendation engines, and wow, that sounds really cool, and if we see good recommendations, we're all happy about it. But yeah, what could happen? We didn't sync the slides with the previous presenter, but these recommendation engines may have some bias. As we start to type into Google, there are predictive recommendations, which are sometimes really helpful, most of the cases very helpful, but there are very strange cases when there's an evil side and you start to type in something else, and then, wow, very strange things happen. What Google pops up, and then you have a question, okay, how can you change it? How can you, who is responsible to display such a content? It's an interesting question, I believe. Also, what we discussed about the metadata and cookies, which now we have to accept, but actually we don't really have a choice. We just accept that they exist. We don't have a choice to opt out, except if we use some special browsers that systematically decline the sharing of all these cookie informations. So even if we just log into a page first time, they will know what we are interested in, where we want to travel, where we are based. And are we happy about this? Do we have full control over the data we share to other providers? And as the overarching question, in case of artificial intelligence, where is the ethical limit? Is there a limit? Can you switch off an AI engine or the coder of the engine? Can you jail such an algorithm if it's such misbehaving? How can you prevent such cases to happen? This is a quite broad question, so I will go on with some real examples. And the big question is that there's a part in what we do about what can be technically done. We saw the tools, we saw the data, we saw what's available. There's a separate group of problems or questions in the black one. What can be done legally? Okay, it's also a framework. What is legal? What an organization would like to do. Some things may be outside of what can be done technically, or especially what is outside of the legal case. But the smallest denominator among these is the ethical position. What is ethical among all these? And I think if you're professional about what you do in case of big data, and my company Talkabot is dealing with chatbots, we are building AI-based chat robots for corporate clients, there's always a question, what is ethical? How can we ensure that what we do on behalf of a big brand like a bank or even some government organization is indeed not just legal, but ethical? So that's very interesting. You all seen many movies. Some were recommended to us just a few slides before by the previous presenter. So there can be a tool which is predictive policing. This is very easy. I take the example of law enforcement now. If we take the predictive policing, that we take data, historic data, which may be biased, which may be untrue, and we try to predict where there will be crimes committed. So if you know the map of Budapest, you may instinctively or based on this data put more police force to some place. And this is, if this is announced, then crime may go somewhere else, right? So this is not necessarily true that if you take this data, then you can predict the location of crimes. So the assumption in this case is that the future is going to follow the patterns in the past, and this is in many cases true. In most of the cases true, but there can be cases when it's not true. So this can be very discriminatory if you think about it, because if you put a pledge on some people and some areas that, okay, you committed crime before, this is a dangerous position, the same thing will happen in the future. So this is ethically very questionable. The next thing is mass surveillance. This is coming to our life. This is in our everydays. So there are CCTV cameras around the city. The police are monitoring gatherings of groups and try to detect if a situation is getting escalated. On one situation, this is very good. because in times of different terror attacks, this can be a guidance or security for ourselves. On the other hand, it raises a lot of questions of privacy, freedom of expression, conscience, and association. And it's a very slippery slope. If we start to have together the data as a big data of the past, if we have a view of our present, then obviously we can, to some extent, predict the future. And it's really a slippery slope, because sooner than later, we will be able to do preemptive punishing. Who has seen Minority Report with Tom Cruise, 2002? Okay, so we're talking about that here. So you may write an email, think about something, and then bang, you get arrested. By the way, this is happening today, right? So NSA and some other major companies are monitoring emails, social chat platforms, and try to identify people who may be risky to the society, and then try to prevent certain crimes to happen. So there are 6 critical questions for big data. This is not by me, but from Boyd and Crawford, who raised these questions. So big data will change the definition of knowledge. We heard that big data even helps us to raise new questions, right? Claims to objectivity. If we have the data, is it objective? Is it true, necessarily? Who guarantees that? Bigger is not necessarily better. So you can be smart from less amount of data. And taken out of context, big data loses its meaning. And many times, big data scientists start to clean data, start to crunch data, filter data, and do they necessarily keep the context of it? I'm not so sure about it. And limited access to big data creates new digital divides. The inequality of information has always been a centerpiece to power, money, legal rights. So companies who have access to these big data tools are more powerful. So there's the least amount of equality on the market. This is also a big question when we come to this system. And now let's talk about my company and why we are so interested in this. You may see a big change in the design of the slides. It is because the previous slides that I used are coming from Chris Margaritidis, who is the Dean of Students of Central European University. He's a professor of philosophy, and he has a specific course about big data ethics, and I asked for his approval and for his slides to speak about this. So now I will speak a few minutes about what we do at Talkabot. We are an enterprise chatbot provider. Our customers are banks, insurance companies, the government, hopefully the post office, e-commerce sites, and we try to create automated communication systems for them on social chat platforms. So if you write a message to the national gas utility provider in Hungary in a few weeks, you will be able to report your gas utility meter. Next month, we will remind you, and then you will be able to pay your utility bills via Facebook Messenger. This is quite cool. It saves you time. You don't have to remind yourself every month. So this is, I think, by definition, is very nice and ethical and legal and all about it. But still, data privacy is a question. If we get all this data about people, can we link this data to other databases? So GDPR is coming in handy for us in such questions, but still there are ethical limits. Talkabot is a Hungarian startup company. I dare to say startup because we started only 18 months ago. We already have 25 clients. We traveled around the world in different conferences in 3 continents, and we have very nice partners as well. At the moment, we have 22 full-time employees after 1.5 years in operation, and we started with 4 co-founders, the company. Moreover, our chatbots have been used by over 2 million people. So we have a lot of know-how and a lot of insight to what people write to our chatbots. And it's not only about protecting the users from our clients or from our own selves, because this may come up, but also protecting the companies from the users. I tell you a very nice story, which is one of my favorite. It was the Christmas of 2016. I was standing at West End City Center in front of the cinema, and one of our clients called me that, Ákos, the chatbot was hacked. The chatbot greeted somebody, sorry for the language, but hello little prick. That was the expression. Wow, I was, you know, really astonished. How can they hack it? We did penetration testing, everything. And it turns out that the user had the name Carrot. So he says, hi. The chatbot says, hi, Carrot. And the user goes, change name to little prick. And then it was saved. We saw the notification. Then the user said again, hi. Then the chatbot greeted again the user on his or her name. And then this user created a screenshot and posted on the company's managing director's Facebook page, complaining that this rude chatbot called him or her on such a name. Okay, so what do we do about it? We reprogrammed the chatbot not to say the name. So if you say hi to this chatbot nowadays, we just say hi and not your name. So that's the very simple solution on this. But wow, this was surprising to us. Now we are planning to release a chatbot for a bank. And the bank is really afraid of what people will type in for the chatbot. Will they send their PIN number, their VAT number, all their special personal data? And how can we protect the chatbot? Because if you type in such a data and then you file a claim against the company that, wow, they are storing such sensitive personal information about me in the chatbot, the bank is a big target. It's a big company, a big target, and they may get into the trouble. So it is a specific system within the chatbot that filters this personal content, and we simply blank it. We don't even get this data. It goes through a filter. We don't store it. We just block it in order to protect our own client. It is quite an interesting experience. But we had cases when somebody sent a nude picture of a girl to the chatbot asking, shall I date this girl? What do you think? So somebody asked this from one of our chatbots. Obviously, we couldn't respond adequately to the question, but people are very creative about what they do. And we are not only using these chatbots to do customer service, but these become something like mobile applications. We were the first ones to launch a chat shop on Viber platform. So nowadays you can go to Galaxy Cosmetics, which is an e-commerce company, one of our clients, and they have a menu system where you can browse the product. We have a system integration with their e-commerce webshop engine. You can pick and choose your products, put it into your basket, and then eventually pay without any application, without any portal. And if you cut the discussion like you do it with your friends and family, and if you continue a day later, we still have the session, we still know what you talked about, and you can continue the discussion. This is very, very useful and will help us in the near future in many other clients. But just to see, this is not only about frequently asked questions, customer service, but real business value. Our value proposition is that we build unique chatbots with a scalable business model, and we want to automate communication. That's our main goal. We want to bring a seamless communication like we do with our friends and families over Messenger and Viber. We want to have the same kind of communication with companies. So if I send a message, maybe in a year, to my bank that please transfer money for my wife, then the chatbot will understand who is my wife, how much I want to transfer. It will prepare a form for me, and then I can transfer the money to this pre-approved account. So make it much faster, not to wait for customer service. And we created this chatbot anatomy because it's not as easy as just creating a script or creating a tree form to route the dialogue. But we must have business goals, marketing strategy, natural language processing, chat platform framework, personality. That's another interesting subject. So if you speak with the bank's artificial intelligence engine, it must have a personality. Does it use an informal language or a formal language? What are the rights of the chatbot? Can you as a user harass a chatbot? We have very detailed statistics about what people speak with our chatbots. And mostly the F sentence gets into the top three. Top three, right? So if people identify that they are talking to a chatbot, they will start to try it, to see what are the limits. Okay, is it smart enough? Can it respond adequately? And then they ask a bank's chatbot, what's the weather? What's the flight ticket price to London? Or say the F word, and how do we react? So we have a client, it's index.hu, the news portal. If we curse to this chatbot in Hungarian, we detect it. It's, again, a function. And then we have a collection on the 100 most politically incorrect letters index cut. So they have strong opinions, so they receive many hate letters. And we collected the top 100 of these hate letters, and we respond with such a hate letter to these troll users. So it's also a way to entertain people or educate. Or actually, literally, the chatbot says that, wow, are you a troll? You think you're a good troll? Let me send you something a real troll writes. and then we send back these letters. So it's a quite complex thing. And then the bot data or big data analysis is also behind the whole concept. We're going back to Chris's slides, because Talkabout was actually an assignment on Central European University big data students, that what are the ethical questions about our company, about what we do. And I didn't change the questions at all. So these are, all of Chris's slides are unchanged. So these are the things that a theoretic professor comes up when they talk about chatbots. I think many of the questions are relevant, some of them are not. Right to be forgotten is becoming with GDPR a must, for example, but anonymity of the customer, I think by standard people should have that right. But if they opt in, if they want to authenticate themselves, they get better content, they get better, faster services via the chatbot. So definitely it's a good thing. Are we able to use commercially the data? Okay, I will not answer these. I raised many questions today, but think about it, and I will be here after the presentation, so I'm happy to discuss in more depth. Again, speaking outside of the space of Talkabout, here are statistics about good and bad robots, because there are many bad robots. But actually, most of them among the bots out there on the internet are bad ones. The number of good robots is increasing, but still the majority is about bad robots. So it's all about fake news, scams, collecting data which you don't really want to share. People have to be really careful about how they use robots, including chatbots, but these are also referring to other bots, because they are mostly harmful or come with a bad intention. Two nice stories for the last minute. The first one is from Tay and Microsoft. Microsoft created a few years back this wonderful artificial intelligence engine which has machine learning and was supposed to run on Twitter and learn from people. Monitor Twitter, and then eventually after a few months it was supposed to speak with everybody like a person, because it learned so much from people. Microsoft had to switch off Tay within 48 hours because trolls went up to Twitter and they teach the chatbot that child pornography is really fun, and Adolf Hitler is the best person in human history, and it harassed people. So it was a big scandal and problem for Microsoft. This is why in case of our chatbots, we chose to use so-called controlled machine learning to our clients what to teach the bot, but it doesn't learn by itself, because the source of the information is really key, from where you teach the chatbot. And the other one is my favorite, the first chatbot to be arrested. This is actually an artist project in Switzerland. So the first chatbot in human history was arrested in 2016 in Switzerland. Where else, right? These artists created a chatbot which was operating on the darknet in e-commerce sites and ordered drugs and other illegal substances. And when the chatbot or this bot got these substances, it dispatched to an art gallery. So the artist never touched any part of the bot. It operated on itself, and it even picked the products they wanted to use. And then in the art gallery, these substances were on display. I think in 2 months, police had to arrest. When ecstasy went on the display, they actually arrested the chatbot. But don't worry about it. It was released a few months later. And the artists were not arrested. Thank you for your attention.